1. Male, 185 pounds, 25, 23 when this happened. My girlfriend Lauren and I were at my house, ranch-style, main level plus basement, near the mountains, woods, and backyard, closest neighbor, 7 miles away. At that point, we'd been dating for 3 months. We were watching a movie. I put the moves on her and things started getting heavy. A loud crash came from the basement, think bowling ball knocking down pins loud. And I ran down, baseball bat, flashlight in hand, searched every crevice. Nothing, no evidence. Chalked it up to something falling. Walked back up to Lauren. She's under about 4 blankets and trying to be as small as possible. I comfort her, reassure her. Lauren falls asleep before the movie ends. I switch to Netflix and eventually fall asleep. I woke up to, light sleeper, shuffling of feet and my front door closing quietly. In my sleepy state, I thought it was Lauren leaving. I looked down, no, she's still in my arms, sound asleep. Okay, fully awake now. I am up on my feet. Grab the bat. Flashlight. Whoever that was is now outside. I lock the door, and before walking out like a deer in a hunting arena, I look out each window. Darkness. Nothing. Then lastly, I look out the window that is above my sink in the kitchen and see what looks to be a 6-foot-tall, burly male with a mask on, standing behind a tree with his head poking out, tilted, looking at the house. Very The Strangers-esque. I'm fucking panicking like a pussy on the inside, but on the outside I must remain combative. I walk fast to Lauren, wake her up, whisper, "Don't panic. But there is a guy with a mask on in the backyard. Stay low." She's like, "Seriously? What the fuck, Luke?" She's panic whispering, but stays low on the couch. I stealthily look out of the front bay window. The masked perp is by my fucking garage under the motion light. Standing there, motionless. Now that he's in the light, I notice that he has a meat cleaver in his hand. His head is tilted, just looking at my house. His arm limp, cleaver by his side. I get down low and army crawl to Lauren, kiss her forehead. I tell her to stay put, that I will keep her safe. I keep crawling to the window by my back door, close to my garage, look out near the motion light. It's off, and the masked perp is gone. I slowly stand up, scale the walls to my bedroom. I look out the south side window that is adjacent to my bed. Keep in mind it is pitch black in my room. I see masked perp slowly walking down my driveway, back to the house, his arms swinging back and forth, caveman or Bigfoot style. He then stops dead in his tracks, just turns his head, tilts it, and looks straight into my bedroom window, at me. He just stands there. I am just standing there, like I am frozen. How he knew which window I was at? No fucking clue. The fight must have kicked in full blast cause I wasn't playing around anymore. I grabbed my Beretta A300 Semi out of my safe, and my Surefire X300 flashlight. I also grabbed my Sig Sauer P226. I beelined it to Lauren, handed her the Sig, told her I'm heading outside. Quickly laced up my combats, unlocked the door. Quietly opened it, quietly shut it, and quietly locked it behind me. Restyle, I laid down individual surveillance of my land for this masked perp fucker. He wasn't anywhere in sight. I checked everywhere, believe me. Walked back into my house, Lauren still on the couch, Sig in hand. She asked me if anything happened. I said no, and that he appeared to be gone. I checked every nook and cranny in my house for safety. While knuckling my Beretta, nothing. Nothing was found. Nothing was missing. I never saw the masked perp again. Now, I want y'all's theories on what the hell that was about. Keep in mind, I'm very meticulous when it comes to keeping all doors, windows locked when not in use, even when I am home. Also, my closest neighbor, a sweet old lady and old man, who I am friendly with, is 7 miles away. So how did he get into my house? Lauren and I both fell asleep at one point. Why didn't he take action? Why did he leave? Why was he creeping outside? Was he roaming my house? Did he watch us while we were sleeping? Where was he hiding when I first checked the basement? And what was that crashing noise? Lastly, why did he choose me? I still don't understand what the fuck happened and what his intentions were. He could have killed us so easily. I'm sorry this isn't as creepy as most posts on this sub, but it scared me to the core. And I'm curious to hear all of your guys' opinions and thoughts on his intentions. 2. This is really fresh in my mind, as this happened to me just yesterday with my friends. I'm going to change some names around to keep their identities safe, because they are underage and some people may know us on here. I'm a 20-year-old college girl in the state of Virginia. I am a young, aspiring animator. I hang out with my boyfriend's little brother and his high school friends. I know, kinda weird, but they are mostly more fun to be around than a few of my friends. Sam, boyfriend's brother, Dean, one of his friends, just to be safe. Yesterday I got out of my classes early, due to my art class cancelled on me, so I went home. I got home, and was there to help my dad with his special brownies. They'll come into play later. And it was fun mixing the batter together and putting it in the oven. Truly a great father and daughter bonding, right? Yeah, that's me and my dad. After we was done, he gave a baggie with 2 of them to give to my friends to try. 2 'cause I had already eaten 1. The smell was my weakness, and told me to be careful with them. At this point, I got excited as we had been waiting to try this, and gave Sam a call telling him about the brownies and if they wanted to head to the spot. Around 7 o'clock on the dot, I get to Dean's house and pick them up. With that, we headed up to the old church about a mile from his place. No one ever goes there, or anything because of how old it is. There is one person, but she is there because I think she owns it and just comes to check on things. As well, there is a motion light there. That always scared me. It always turns on every 5 minutes. It's broken. I pull into the lot and go to the far back near the old graveyard in front of us and big bushes on the left of us. So yeah, already creepy. But I didn't mind it anymore, due to us going there every time we had weed and smoked, so I didn't think anything would happen. So we started smoking and eating. Yes, I had another brownie, sue me. And started telling stupid jokes to one another as we relaxed there. For a while, it was fine, until I started feeling like we was being watched. You know that feeling you get, like a shiver going up your back, making your heart race? Yeah, that was what I was feeling at that moment, but I tried to push it away from my mind, just thinking it was the weed messing with me, and nothing more. Then 2 hours later, I had just rolled us another blunt with a strawberry wrap. As I was sealing it, we all hear a loud break of a branch, making us all jump. Dean looked outside, shocked, slightly, trying to see through the dark. He may only be 15, but he did look scary due to his height. I looked around with him, through our windows, for he wasn't going to leave the car in case it was a bear. I then needed to release the tension in the car and finally said, "Oh guys, let's relax. It must have just been a deer walking around." And at that, everyone calmed down, but it was still there. So I lit up the blunt and started the chain, wanting us to relax again, for I really didn't want us to be freaked out anymore. So for a few minutes, that is what happened. We all relaxed, and Dean started telling his stories again about some crazy stuff. until he stopped again as he looked out the window again. I asked him if he was okay, but he didn't answer me. When he did, all he said was, "Start the car," in a soft whisper. And at this moment a shiver ran down my body as I unwillingly asked him, why? He looked at me with a look of worry and fear. "I saw someone standing in the bush. We have to get out of here. Now." He said this more harshly, as if he wasn't joking. I quickly put my hand in my pocket to get my key, but to my shock, my key wasn't in my pocket. I feel my body go numb as I knew I just had it there, panic quickly running through me as I tried to keep myself calm, just in case the creepy person was watching us still. I placed my hands on the steering wheel as I looked ahead of me, and I said this as quietly as possible. "Dean, in my little box next to you there is a package. Open it and give me the pepper spray." And he was dumb enough to ask why. This just made me feel even more terrified when I heard something moving from the bushes, making the light cut on. But sadly, we didn't see them still. But with the little light, I was able to find my key laying inside my armrest, and I quickly cut on the car. As my bright lights cut on, there was 2 men standing 10 feet from my car. They are both white guys, one really skinny like a hiker with a mess of brown hair. The other guy was chunky, with a huge belly. He looked like a skinhead, sorry, but he did. But the look on their faces, I could tell that they were shocked that I turned on my lights. I screamed loudly, and I never scream. I quickly threw the car in reverse and packed away from them as, at this point, they started running for my car. Why didn't I just run over them, you may ask? Well, my whole car smelt of weed, and in Virginia it isn't legal here, and I had 2 minors in the car with me. I'd rather not get in trouble from the law. I flicked the car into drive and sped off down the road, leaving them in the dust from the dirt drive. We were scared to death from this, and the weed didn't help with the fear. So we headed back to Dean's and smoked weed from his hookah. And after a while, got the dumb idea of going back. I know. Truly a dumb idea. We got to the church and rode around it, pointing our headlights in the bushes. We stopped and watched the tree line to see if we could find them, but nothing happened. But then, when we turned off the car again, we noticed lights coming from the bush. It was a camera flash. At this, in my state, I got pissed getting out of my car stupidly and yelled at the bushes, "Hey bitch, why are you taking pictures, fucking cunt?" Yeah, I am a stupid girl. At this, Sam and Dean got out of the car to get me back in, telling me to just leave. I got back in the car and started it again, as I slowly turned my car around to drive away. I didn't tell them this, but I saw the 2 men walking out of the bushes with something shining in their hands. I know it was a knife, and I felt my heart stop. What if I was alone there, smoking by myself? What if I never found my key? I would be dead. Thank God for that creepy, shitty motion light. For those 2 creepy guys that hide at the church, please let's never meet. 3. A little bit of description and backstory to help paint the picture. At the time of this, I was roughly 26 years old. I'm 30 now. My husband and I, at the time, lived in a military city. He was enlisted. And this particular city was only popular, not just for the base it housed, but by its incredible crime rate. Honestly, if people had warned us ahead of time, we would have happily moved out of the city and dealt with the long drive. But I digress. At the time, we lived in a duplex in a really bad neighborhood. The way the unit was set up was if you stood in the street of our parking lot style driveway and looked at the house, our unit was to the left, our neighbors to the right and exposed to the street. since our building was on the corner. The entire property was surrounded by a chain-link fence, save a 6-foot privacy fence that ran along the back of the property to block our view of the parking lot that led to the apartments behind us. I promise this will be relevant. As I said, we lived in a horrible neighborhood where crackheads and hookers ran free, but I didn't feel overly unsafe. At the time, I had a 200-pound English Mastiff, a sweetheart, but intimidating from a distance. And my size always gave me a hint of security. I'm 5'9" and definitely not a beanpole. We also have a few sweet neighbors which helped buffer the horrible. One such neighbor was a man that walked the neighborhood regularly. He walked everywhere, and our house was about center in his path to the store, and the like, so we'd see him at least once a day or so. Dwayne was a nice enough man, my height, roughly my build, and always smiling. But not that creeper kind of smile, a normal, jovial smile. He never set off alarm bells, which makes this more disturbing. We'd been living at our house for about a year or so, and all the while gotten to know some of our neighbors better. Up until this point, Dwayne would always wave hello and offer some small talk. He'd speak to my husband more than myself because I just don't do well in southern heat, and he tended to be long-winded, so I'd wave, say hello, and then go inside after a few short minutes. Everything was fine, until my husband was deployed. We'd been married at that point for 6 years, and this was his 5th deployment during that time. So I was used to being left alone. It didn't bother me in the least, especially since it would be a 9-week deployment. Seriously, we were so pissed about that. What a pointless time frame. And I'd already learned the layout of the new city fairly well. One day I was coming home from the grocery store, about 2 weeks after my husband had left. I am a firm believer in one trip with the bags, so I loaded up my arms completely and headed for the house. As I said before, our yard was completely encased in a fence, so just after I managed to shut the gate, I hear someone calling up at me. Turning, I saw Dwayne bearing his normal, happy, wide smile and heading for me. I shift the bags and give him my attention. I was raised to be polite to people, and since I knew him vaguely, I had no problem saying hello. Besides, seeing my arms full of groceries, some of which was milk, eggs, and other cold things, he surely wouldn't keep me too long. I was wrong. He starts droning on about nothing in particular, during which I could only smile and nod. I waited patiently for a break in the conversation, so I could head inside. But he barely took a second to breathe, let alone let me speak. For a little while, the conversation had been pretty mundane, until he started talking about his lady friend. Without warning, he started to tell me explicit details about his relationship with whoever this woman was. He went on to tell me how much she likes what he can do to her, his techniques, and, to my horror, how good he is at going down on her. I knew I must have looked as horrified as I felt, because he started chuckling and went on as though nothing was wrong. He even went so far as to ask if my husband was as good. At this point, not only were the grocery bags digging into my hands and arm, but I was thoroughly creeped the fuck out. I told him I had to go put my groceries away and let out the dogs. I thought that was the end of the conversation, but evidently not. Nor was it any less unsettling. "Oh yeah, your man's gone now, huh?" It took my brain a second to realize what he'd said. I never told him my husband was gone. I didn't tell anyone who wasn't a close friend, so, naturally, my guard rose. "Yeah," he went on. "You need someone here to take care of you." "I'm fine," was all I could really think to say. For some reason, I didn't even bother saying he was wrong. I guess on some level, I thought my husband must have told him. Well, how about I come by later and make you dinner tonight? I'm a hell of a cook. I knew my brows came together and my eyes were wide because I could feel it. How about 6? I can come back around 6, make you some dinner, then we can watch some TV. You shouldn't be alone. He just kept persisting, which made every hair on my body stand on end. I told him no thanks. Didn't even tell him to fuck off, which I have no idea why not. And turned around. Without bothering to look back, I went inside. I locked my doors and waited until I was sure he was gone before letting out my dogs. By the time 6 came, I didn't even want to be in the house in case he did stop by. After making sure everything was locked up tight, I left and drove around for an hour or so before coming home. I didn't even bother turning on more than the TV when I got back, just in case he came by again. I didn't see him for a couple of days, maybe a week and a half. I was a smoker back then, and hated smoking in the house, so I'd let the dogs out, smoke a cigarette, then bring them back inside. After Dwayne's disturbing confrontation, I took to smoking in the backyard on my back steps. From where I sat, I could only see a few feet of the main street, being as our unit was away from the street, beside neighbors who had trees and bushes, and the privacy fence between us and the apartments. I felt relatively shielded. I knew that if I saw Dwayne, I'd be more than capable of ducking around the corner of the house and hiding. Like I said, there was just a small strip of the road that left me exposed. It was really easy to stay hidden, or so I thought. One day I'm standing outside in the front yard, talking to the sweet little old lady that lives across the street. We were just having a nice little talk, until Dwayne suddenly came walking up. I of course felt uneasy, but a little safer with my neighbor there since I didn't think he'd be as gross as he was before. He wasn't, but he was no less creepy. My neighbor had asked me if I quit smoking because she didn't see me out front anymore. That was usually when she'd used to come and say hi, since she was always out gardening. I didn't immediately answer because Dwayne was there, but it didn't matter. He spoke up first and told my neighbor, "Nah, she smokes in the backyard now." My blood ran cold. Not once, not one single fucking time had I seen him walk by while I was back there. I never saw him walk by while I was back there, nor did I catch a glimpse of him when I stepped out of my front door and walked around the back. Never. I politely excused myself and went inside, creeped out as hell. The only way I could think he might have known I was in the back was if he somehow had been watching me through the bushes and trees in my neighbor's yard, to the other side, or through the privacy fence that led to the apartments. Each thought was as disturbing as the last. I couldn't stand the thought of him peering at me from the shadows. That was the last time I smoked outside. I didn't go outside unless I had errands to run until my husband came home a few weeks later. I had told him everything, and he admitted. That was creepy as hell, and he just told me to keep our mastiff close. He was very protective of me, and I did. The last time I saw Dwayne was just a glimpse. I had let my dogs outside, and a few minutes after sitting back on the couch, I heard my mastiff losing his mind. Anyone who owns dogs knows the difference between a normal bark and an angry, "I'm gonna rip your leg off" bark. This was the latter, and it terrified me. Until this point, he'd only ever growled protectively twice, and never barked. Freaked out, I opened up the front door and saw Dwayne standing halfway up my driveway. It looked like he'd been walking up to my fence, probably to say hi, when my dog caught sight of him. The bark was so ferocious that it had him and me completely still. My dog continued to bark, and even charge the fence, which he easily could have taken down if he chose. Every hair on the back of his neck and down his spine was standing on end, and it was pretty obvious he wanted a piece of Dwayne. Dwayne glanced at me, forced a smile and a wave, and backed slowly out of the driveway. My dog didn't calm down until he was out of sight, at which time I was able to get him in the house. I was so grateful that I gave him half a package of sliced turkey lunch meat. I don't know what, if Dwayne had anything planned, but my dog, who never had a problem with him up until that point, definitely knew something wasn't right. Like I said, we'd been in that house for just over a year, and many times Dwayne had stopped at the fence to talk, and our dog never reacted like that. It still freaks me out to think about why my dog suddenly changed his mind. I haven't seen him since, so Dwayne, we may have known each other, but for your sake, let's not meet again, or my dog may have something to say about it. Hey everyone, HelloFreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 140. Thank you very much to the 3 individuals who allowed me to use their stories. Also apologies if yours was one of the stories I got permission to use a while ago, but kept you waiting for. Don't really mean to keep people waiting, it's just I have to use certain stories work better together than others. That's the way it is, so it's a matter of making sure you have things in the right place. Okay, where are we at the moment? This will be up on Wednesday. I'm planning, hoping, fingers crossed, to do a glitch video on Thursday. And it should be paranormal on Friday. At the moment, I'm not sure about Saturday. Hopefully a TIFU, but I'm not going to promise it just in case I can't make it happen. Though there certainly will be some form of video up on Saturday. Now, I also want to say thanks to everyone. To thank you for the paranormal video the other day there, but I'd also like to say thanks for your feedback on the Ugly Duckling reading I did. I think it may have done the best of all the fairy tale readings I've done yet. So I will certainly do more in the future, but it's just going to be a bonus thing like it was. It's not a regular feature. Whenever I can find some time to sit down and record them. Thankfully the rain came on for me at the right time there, and it shooed all those people away with their noisy fireworks, so I could actually record properly. Although by the sounds of things right now, I'm listening to it as it's raining, and I'm fairly sure my loft is leaking, so I'm gonna have to get that repaired. Wonderful. Okay, well, that's enough grumbling from me, I think, so I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.